Okay. Hey YouTube, I'm Nate. Welcome back to my homestead. So you'll probably notice that I'm indoors tonight and I'm inside for a very good reason. Something that I believe I may have mentioned in earlier videos is that last year my mom, she passed away. And I've done an okay job coping with it overall. It's definitely been pronounced where I've not had her around, especially as I've bought a house and not had her available to, really ask any advice from. You probably noticed that I'm sitting in front of a picture collage blanket. It was actually the last gift I bought her before she passed away, and when she passed, it was decided that it would come back to me just because of the sentimentality it had. So tonight it is January the 16th, 2020. And by the time you guys see this, it will be January the 17th. That's when I'm planning on making this live. January the 17th was my mom's birthday. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes and really just talk about my mom for a moment, because I never thought that I wouldn't have my mom's support going into the ownership of the house that I have now, and it's been tough not being able to call or text her and be like, "Mom, I don't know what I'm doing, help me." So yeah, I just kind of wanted to take a couple moments and one, put it out there that it's my mom's birthday, and I feel like being that this channel is, kind of a look into my life, I figured I would share not only the good things, but, the rougher parts of my life. And I'm not looking forward to tomorrow, when you guys are actually seeing this, because it'll be my mom's first birthday without her. I had my first everything without her over the last year. My first birthday, my first holidays, all that jazz. And I really miss her. You guys don't, some of you may, but a lot of people don't necessarily recognize the wealth and knowledge that your parents have. And I'm not talking financial wealth, but just the wealth of their life experiences. A lot of people don't recognize what their parents have until, obviously it's too late. And I would really like to encourage everybody to, go find your parents. Tell them you love them, because they're not going to be here with us forever. And when they're gone, you're really going to feel their absence in your life. I feel my mom's absence almost every day. Not probably as much as most people, because in my case, Mom wanted to be cremated, so I have her ashes in an urn, actually not too far away from me. I'd have them sitting next to me, but I felt like that would be a little too morbid for YouTube. My mom was a fun lady. I had some fun situations, so I'll tell you guys a couple stories about her. It was, let's see, it's 2020 now. So what was it, 2014? So about 6 years ago now, when I was much younger and not as gray. I went to Vegas for the first time as an adult with her, my stepdad, and a couple of my stepsisters. And my mom, me to an extent too, but drinking is not something that's unknown to my family. Alcohol has definitely had its place. And so we decided we'd stay at the Excalibur. And by the end of the first night, my mom and I were already absolutely hammered, having a good time sitting at slots. But the second night we were there, oh my God, I can't describe to you guys what it was like for two drunk people to be carrying each other back to their rooms. Like my mom and I, we were walking down the hallway towards the rooms after we decided to call it a night. And, and I've got one hand on the wall right next to me trying to stay up. And then I got my other arm around my mom, and she's got her arm around my neck. And we're both trying not to fall flat on our faces and make it back to our hotel rooms. And we passed so many hotel staff that night, and they're just all looking at us like, oh my God, how drunk are these guys? And by that point, my stepdad, he had already gone back to the room for the night. So we get to mom's room first because I'm a little bit more stable than she is or was when I've had alcohol. So she starts knocking on the door. She's like, hey, let me in. And so my stepdad opens up the door, and she almost falls over. And just the sheer look of disapproval on his face, like, he's looking at her like, Carol, you were in your 60s. You know better than to do something like this at this point. And my mom, not a care in the world. That very same night, much, much earlier, we'd been ordering drinks from the waitresses on the floor. And so we're both sitting at a slot. And one of the waitresses, for anybody let me back up. For anybody who's never been to Vegas before, when you're actually sitting at a slot machine or you're sitting at a table, you have the waitresses, the floor waiters, whatever. I don't remember what they're called, but I'm calling them waitresses. You have the waitresses coming up to you periodically and going, hey, would you like anything to drink? And for anybody who's not been to Vegas anymore, when you're gambling, the drinks are basically free. You don't pay for them in most cases. Now, if you want a cocktail or something, a lot of times you'll have to pay for that. But I'm a beer drinker, so they're bringing us beer and bringing us beer. So one waitress, she comes by and she goes, hey, would you guys like a drink? And so my mom and I, we both order a drink because we were about halfway through the ones we already had. And so about 15, 20 minutes goes by and we're like, we haven't gotten our drinks. And the girl that had been ferrying them to us all night, she'd been really good about having us a new drink about every 20 minutes. We were drinking a lot that night. So finally another girl comes around and she goes, hey, do you guys have any drinks? We tell her, well, yeah, we ordered a couple drinks about 20 minutes ago and they still haven't come. And so she's like, oh no, I'm so sorry. She was amazing. And she comes back like less than 5 minutes later with 2 beers for both of us. And then 15 minutes later, the original waitress comes by with the beers we'd originally ordered. So at this point, we have one beer that is basically 2/3 gone, and we have 3 fresh beers. I wish I still had the picture somewhere, and I might. I'm pretty sure it's in one of my Google Drives. If I have it, I'm going to put it in this video so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. But there is a picture out there of my mom and me on the floor of the Excalibur with basically double fisting beers. And it was one of the funnest vacations I'd ever had in my life because I got to see my mom unwind as an adult. It was hilarious and it was fun. My mom was always a blast to be around, especially if she was in a good mood and having a good time. Like she could hang with the rest of them. I think that was her country roots and her lifelong love of alcohol. But before I bring this to a close, I got one more story for you guys. And it's a super short one, but it's also one of the funniest things I've ever seen my mom do. So I'd say about a year after we had... Yeah, it was about a year. About a year after the Vegas trip, my mom had fallen and broken her hip. And because of that, it had caused some pretty permanent pain for her. And so we were living out in Arizona at the time. So this actually only happened, the story I'm going to tell you only happened like about 2 years ago, really. So she was consistently going to a pain doctor for pain meds. Well, a couple years ago, I was bringing her home because we actually kind of made it our mother-son thing. She had a monthly visit to that doctor, so I would always be the one that took her. And it gave me an opportunity to spend some time with my mom because I'm very, very busy at work most of the week. I work 10 to 11 hours a day doing what I do. So we're on our way home and bored, as we usually are, because it was like a 45-minute drive one way and we were already hitting traffic. Well, from New Year's that year, I had an air horn still sitting in my car. So my mom sees the air horn, she picks it up, she looks at me and she's like, "You want to get into some trouble?" And I got my hand on the steering wheel and I look at her, I'm like, "Mom, what are you talking about? What kind of trouble?" She holds the air horn up, she just does this, she's like, and I'm like, "Mom, what are you thinking?" She goes, "Why don't we go blow it at people?" So then we spend the next half an hour, and it was a beautiful day too, so we were able to have the windows down and everything. So we're driving around neighborhoods for about a half an hour, 40 minutes, just blowing an air horn at people. And it was one of the funniest things in the world, because my mom at the time, she was like 64, 65 years old, and people did not know how to react to a 65-year-old lady hanging out of a car window blowing an air horn at them. At this point, she had had some like blue or purple hair dye put in her hair. So you see this senior citizen with bluish purple hair hanging out of a car window, blowing an air horn at people, giggling, and people were confused. They're like, on one hand, I don't want to yell at an old person. Like, that is just rude. But on the other hand, they were affronted. They're like, "How dare you blow an air horn at me? But you're old. What do I do here?" And my mom, guys, she had so much fun doing it. It was funny then. I mean, it's even funnier now, because that was a side of my mom I had never really experienced. I had never experienced a side of my mom that just liked to screw with people, and that's one of my best memories of her, and I really wanted to share that with you guys, because, and I said this at my grandmother's funeral many, many years ago. But one thing I do very sincerely believe is that when we pass away in life, we don't just die once, we actually die twice. The first time we die is when our bodies fail us. The second time we die is when people no longer remember us. And, you know, there's not a lot you can do to make somebody's body last longer, but we can absolutely make sure that the memories of our loved ones, of people that are no longer with us, we can make sure that they never die. Because that in my eyes is the only and best form of immortality, is when people remember you after you're gone. If they remember you for the right reasons, this is what I'm talking about in this case. But if the family that loves you remembers you after you're gone, you're never really gone. Your body's not there, but your presence is still felt. So, yeah. But anywho, guys, I'm going to bring this to a close, because the more I talk about it, the more emotional I'm going to get, and I don't like getting emotional. Not that I'm, above emotion or anything like that. I don't like those feelings. They don't do anything for me, other than just, make me sad. And remembering someone should not be sad. It should be a happy thing. And so for anybody who has recently lost a parent, I understand how you feel. It's not an easy thing to get through. But I will tell you guys this. My mom was one of my inspirations for buying the house. I'd always told her, "Mom, I want to own a house." And she's like, "Okay, we'll go buy a house." And part of what had taken me so long to buy a house, because I could have bought a house in Arizona years ago if I really wanted to. I mean, my income's been in a place for a while where I can definitely afford to own a house. But Arizona was never really the place for me. My heart was always here in West Virginia. And I'd always said that I wanted to come back, buy a house here, and, kind of stake my claim on the state. And it was even before Mom had gotten unhealthy. I told her, I was like, "Mom, I'm in Arizona until you're gone. Once you're gone, I'm going back to West Virginia." And she always was like, "Nathan, if you want to go back to West Virginia, go back. I do not want to hold you back from doing what you want to do." But by that point, I was my mom's only biological child out there. I mean, we had our step family, And my step family, they're wonderful people for the most part. They're loud. They get annoying from time to time, but I mean that's family in general. But you know, I never really wanted my mom to feel alone or feel like she had been abandoned. So I hung in Arizona with her until her passing, and then when she passed February of last year, that's where I made my mind up. I'm like, you know what? I met my commitment to my mom. I told her, I was like, Mom, I'm not leaving Arizona while you're alive unless you leave the state. And so when she passed, you know, my commitment to my mother was fulfilled, and I'm a stickler for honoring my commitments when and where I can. I will not back out of a commitment I make if I can avoid it. It's not in my character. Like, if you commit to doing something, you should do it. So when she passed, I started looking at houses, and I was like, you know what? It's time to go. Because there is one thing that my mom said to me, not while she was on her deathbed. Like, she wasn't really in a state to really talk to me, other than I think she said I love you once or twice as she was slowly fading away. But November of 2018, she had a scare where we thought that was going to be it. We thought my mom was, you know, not going to see 2019. And I remember her telling me before they were about to take her away to do a stent. Was it a stent? Yeah, take her away to do another stent. She told me, she goes, Nathan, if for some reason I don't come out of this surgery, I want you to promise me that you're going to go try to make yourself happy. Don't be unhappy because of me. And I told her, I was like, Mom, if you don't make it, you have my word. I will do everything in my power to make sure that I stay happy. Because she understood that when she was gone, I would not handle it very well. And I feel like I've handled it very well, but if you ask my step family, I haven't handled it well at all. In their eyes, me moving back to West Virginia was just a way to run away from confronting the pain of losing my mother, which you're not entirely wrong. But she made me promise. She made me promise that I would go out of my way to make sure that I find some happiness in this world. And so that's part of why I'm here. That's part of why I'm doing YouTube. Like, it gives me a hobby, it gives me something to do. So yeah, this video is from my mom, and I really wish that she would have been around for me to introduce her to you guys. I think everybody would have loved her. Actually, there's no thing about it. I know everybody would have loved her. She could be mean. She could be very, very mean, but my mom, she had a good heart, and it was very upsetting to see her gone this early in my life. I did not expect to be in my early 30s and not have a mom anymore, which was one of the things that made me move out of here, because my dad's still alive. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and, you know, buy a house, try to find me some happiness, and then, you know, go spend some time with Dad. But anywho, guys, I know I said 10 minutes ago I was gonna bring it to an end, but I'm really calling it now. This, just talking about Mom, is kind of taken its toll on me, and it's tired me out a little bit. So in the meantime, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening to me talk about my mom. If you've lost a parent, share a story about him in the comments below. I would love to hear some of the funny memories you have about your families. But in the meantime, guys, thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you later.